Welcome to this explainer on the ice stupas of Ladakh, building glaciers in the desert. Okay, let's dive into this. We're looking at a breathtaking, high-altitude desert today. But, despite its stunning beauty, it's facing a literally life-threatening problem. It is quickly, desperately running out of water. So what do? How do you survive in a totally barren landscape when your main water source is just vanishing? Well, the locals actually found a completely wild way to solve this severe water shortage. They are literally growing massive ice towers, essentially their own glaciers, completely from scratch. Yep, you heard that right. They are building glaciers right in the middle of the desert. To understand why they have to go to such extreme lengths, we really need to look at the stark reality of their environment. I mean, farming in a high-altitude desert, that's incredibly difficult on a good day. You've got this dry, cracked soil practically everywhere. But the real kicker here is a fundamental disconnect in the water supply. There is basically zero water available exactly when the farmers need it the most. It all comes down to timing. Here's the catch, and it's a big one. Farmers in Ladakh desperately need water for planting their crops in April, stretching into May. But the natural glaciers up in the surrounding mountains, they don't actually start melting and releasing their water until June. It's a huge, massive timing mismatch. And a dry spring? Well, that means no planting, which ultimately means absolutely no harvest. But hey, human ingenuity is pretty incredible, right? Enter this brilliant indigenous engineering solution known as the ice stupa. Now, these are definitely not your typical run-of-the-mill water reservoirs. We're talking about towering, gravity-powered structures made entirely out of ice, specifically designed to act as artificial glaciers. And the absolute best part, the way they build these things is 100% sustainable. Now, this is where the magic really happens. And I want to make this absolutely clear right off the bat. This entire process uses zero electricity. None. It is powered entirely by gravity. So, step 1. During the winter, locals take unused water from higher mountain streams and they pipe it downhill. Step 2. The sheer raw force of gravity from that huge drop literally pushes the water back up through a vertical pipe at the final location. Step 3. That water sprays out way up high into the freezing winter night air. And finally, step 4. Since that air is sitting at a bone-chilling -30 degrees Celsius, the water practically freezes the second it hits the air. As it falls, it just gradually builds up into this massive, incredible tower of solid ice. And when I say massive, I am not kidding. 30 meters. To put that into perspective for you, that is roughly a 10-story building made entirely out of solid ice. Just imagine that, a glowing 10-story ice tower shining under the desert sun. It's an absolute engineering marvel, standing tall right in the middle of this bone-dry wasteland. Now, you might be wondering, why a cone shape? Why not just, freeze a giant flat lake of ice on the ground and call it a day? Well, to understand that, we have to talk about the actual physics and the geometry of melting. This whole thing isn't just about freezing water, it's about keeping it frozen until the exact, precise moment those farmers need it. Think about it like this. If you have a huge, flat ice sheet, you are exposing a massive amount of surface area constantly to the blazing sun. In a desert environment like Ladakh, a flat sheet of ice, that would melt away in just a matter of days. But an ice cone, mathematically, a cone actually provides the smallest possible surface area exposed to the sun's rays for the volume of water it holds. So just by being shaped like a cone, it naturally fights off the sun's heat. The stupa stays solidly frozen well into the spring and early summer. It only melts very, very slowly, releasing millions of liters of water exactly when those crops are thirstiest in April and May. And the real-world impact of nailing that timing, it is absolutely incredible to see. We're talking about crystal clear, fresh melt water flowing directly into what used to be dead, dry dirt. It is literally greening the desert. It transforms that cracked, lifeless soil into these incredibly lush, thriving barley fields. It brings this vital, total stability to the local villagers whose entire lives depend on this land. So the huge takeaway here is just how elegantly simple, yet wildly effective this whole system is. Zero electricity required, zero dams tearing up the local mountain ecosystem, powered completely by pure physics. And the final result? It turns a barren desert wasteland right into lush green fields. It is just simple, beautiful science creating a completely life-changing impact. Honestly, it has to be one of the cleverest eco-innovations out there today. It perfectly uses an extreme natural environment to solve a massive problem caused by that exact same environment. Which really leaves us with this final thought for you to chew on. Knowing what you know now about some basic pipes, a little gravity, and some freezing air, would you build an ice stupa? Makes you think about how this kind of simple, out-of-the-box geometric thinking could solve other massive global problems, doesn't it? Thanks so much for exploring this explainer with me, and I hope it sparked your curiosity as much as it did mine.
Ladakh is a geographic paradox. It is a high-altitude, bone-dry desert that sits completely surrounded by massive, frozen mountain peaks. Because rainfall here is virtually non-existent, local agriculture relies 100% on runoff from natural glaciers trapped high above the valleys. The farmers living in these extreme conditions have a highly unforgiving, tightly compressed window to grow all of their food for the entire year. The strict schedule of the melting ice dictates the rhythm of human survival in this desert. The natural calendar has a fatal flaw. High-altitude natural glaciers do not begin melting until June, but local farmers must plant their barley crops in April and May. This 2-month disconnect creates what locals call the spring water gap. During this critical planting window, farmers sow their seeds into bone-dry soil, where they sit in drought conditions with absolutely no moisture to germinate. The community lacks the billions of dollars required to build massive concrete dams or pumped water reservoirs to store the late summer runoff. To prevent starvation, they had to figure out how to manipulate time, forcing millions of liters of frozen water to melt exactly 2 months early. The solution is the ice stupa, a radical indigenous engineering method to grow an artificial glacier from scratch right in the valley during the winter. The first major hurdle is moving and lifting millions of liters of water into a towering structure without a single electric water pump. This diagram shows the gravity-powered solution. Unused winter stream water is captured high up and piped downhill. The steep drop generates immense kinetic energy, creating intense pressure at the bottom that forces the water to shoot straight up from a vertical pipe like a geyser. When this highly pressurized water sprays into the -30-degree night air, it instantly crystallizes in mid-flight. By harnessing the natural slope in the freezing air, the community creates a massive, self-assembling water tower with 0 moving parts. But why go through the effort of building a vertical tower? Why not just flood a field and freeze a massive flat lake on the ground? This comparison shows the geometric solution. A flat disk and steep cone hold the exact same volume. Flat ice exposes massive surface area to the sun, melting in days. The cone minimizes exterior exposure. Sun rays hit at an angle, keeping the core frozen. The ice stupa is a mathematically optimized thermal battery designed specifically to resist the sun. When April and May roll around, the intense spring sun arrives and the seasonal drought begins. As the surrounding environment dries out entirely, the cone performs exactly as engineered, slowly bleeding out millions of liters of stored meltwater right into the irrigation canals. The dry earth is immediately flushed with water, transforming the barren valley into a lush, green agricultural zone. This precise geometric timing guarantees the barley harvest, securing the food supply for the community for the rest of the year. These villages are thriving, using 0 electricity, requiring 0 dams, and 0 imported technology. True climate resilience does not always require billion-dollar infrastructure or complex modern power grids to keep a civilization alive. The Ladakhi people conquered a deadly environment by deeply understanding native physical laws and turning them into practical tools. Indigenous engineering holds some of the smartest solutions to our modern crises. Drop your thoughts on the ice stupa below and hit subscribe for more real-world eco-innovation.